Speaking of this weekend, any shocks going to happen, or will City definitely break the record and do a 4-peat?
Congratulations to my oil cousins. Well done. 4 in a row.
Yeah.
Get in there.
Yeah.
You ain't got no oil money. Stop it.
No, but I don't want. No, I am those Spurs fans who were celebrating on Tuesday. I'm petty, and there are too many Arsenal fans that I know who annoy me. I don't know any City fans. I won't know any City fans for a while. I'm petty.
David, can I say something about this Arsenal fans being so annoying? Which we are, which a lot of Arsenal fans are annoying. But do we ever does anyone ever sit back and look at it like how everyone else is to Arsenal fans? And that you're asking
No, the reason finally no, I'm not having this. I'm not having this. Because the reason
first, the chicken or the egg?
Because of if Arsenal fans just went, we've got a really good team and we play really good football. And you know what? On the balance of this season, you could argue we deserve to win the league title. I don't think anyone would have a go at you.
Giuseppe,
hold on. Let David finish, and then I'll go back to Giuseppe. Go on.
My point is, I open I open my WhatsApp. Yeah, I'm going to use the group chat as an example. I have 500 messages. Arteta's done this. Saka's done this, and Rice has done
Gabriel.
that. White's done this, and Saliba's on this, and Gabriel. And there was one show I didn't even mention Gabriel. I didn't mention him. I was minding my business, and people were super chatting me saying, "Are you going to apologize to Gabriel? What for? What for? What? What am I going to do?" And then he went and bottled and made more mistakes. And do you know how happy I was? Me and Gabriel. Do you know how good Gabriel's been? I'm not ashamed to say it. Gabriel's been good this year, but there was, for some reason, people felt the need to come and attack me. Why? For what reason?
Giuseppe, I can attest to David's claim. I can attest.
Listen, for you personally, but what you said earlier about the way you have the two parallels, when one team gets it so much, they have to defend their team so much that they go over the top, is what I think we've now got to.
Giuseppe,
Arsenal fans.
I'll come here and sit down.
Now it's at the point where Arsenal fans get so much abuse, and like Saka, for example. Do a lot of Arsenal fans overrate Saka? Probably yes. But why? Because as soon as someone else plays good, like Foden or any of these guys, the first thing anyone says is, he's better than Saka. He's better than Saka. He's better than Saka. So it's like a going circle of crap. And who started it, we don't know. But unless one calms down, the other won't calm down. But the problem for everyone else is right now is Arsenal look like they're at the cusp of actually they're going to win something big. So really, rival fans, I think, should start stumming a little bit about it and not going as ham on Arsenal, because now when we do win, something, it will be unbearable. And it's generally what's going to happen. And I don't agree with half of the fan base on Twitter, by the way. Like you said, these Gabriel with one of them schnoods on in the picture and all this, and they're just talking all the rubbish about Saka being better than Henry and this sort of rubbish that you read, of Havertz being Bergkamp and all this rubbish that you read. So you've got to dilute out that crap. But Arsenal are, and I think this season, the end of this season has proven it, we are the most hated club in England. So by default, I feel like it's everyone else. It can't just be that we're that bad as fans that everyone hates our club that much. Surely not.
Annoying. Just say
Ram. Let me get a Dio here. What you saying, Dio? Thanks for waiting.
So David, I hear you on the whole Arsenal fans can be annoying and blah, blah, blah. You said in your group chat, like you'd wake up 500 messages. Oh, Saka did this. Gabriel did this. They're hyping up their own players and you're getting mad. They didn't come in and say Chelsea's a shit club. Chelsea's a this. Chelsea's a that. Like Arsenal fans are hyping up their players. We hype up our guys and you guys get mad. You get triggered because I wake up in the morning and put out a tweet that says, man, I rate my star boy Saka because of blah, blah, blah. Or I say, oh, you know what? I'm even though I haven't won a trophy in 20 years, I still have 13 league titles and nobody's caught up yet. Even though City has been winning. Like if I make it, that's a true fact. I may not have won it into the true fact is I haven't caught up to Manchester United or Liverpool. And I may never catch up to them. I don't know. But the fact is, for 20 years, I haven't won and nobody's caught up. Not Chelsea, not City, not anybody. So if I make a statement like that, praising my club, like, oh, Arsenal has 13, league titles, all of a sudden, and I'm like, why? The only people I have a problem with is Tottenham. That's the only club that I don't like. You see, the rest of you, you're like mosquitoes in the night, bzzz, in my ear. Tottenham, me and Tottenham, I cannot see them eye to eye. They have never won anything. They will never win anything, and they should not be able to speak. That's the truth about it. You know, the rest of you, I give you your respect. Liverpool, you've won, and you have more. Man United, you've won. Chelsea, in recent years, you have showed the winning mentality and you've won a lot of things. The problem is you now want to sit there and try and say, okay, we are better than you because we've won European trophies. I agree. You are better than me in Europe. But overall, I still have more trophies in my cabinet than you do. And that's something to be proud of. And it's going to take you years to make up the numbers and catch up to the amount of trophies that I have. That's all I'm saying. So if I'm bigging up my club based on what I have, I'm looking at my little iPhone X and saying it's the greatest, and you're pissed off because you have iPhone 15, and nobody's saying yours is greater than mine.
I get you. I do get you. I think there's a mixture of things here because I get what people say about Arsenal fans being annoying. I just don't find them as annoying as City fans. And generally, there's less City fans about, but City fans annoy me. And this isn't in a salty, horrible way. I'm talking about City fans I know. The way I see Hamza talk, you know, Big Steve, big up Big Steve. I was messaging Big Steve today, like the sort of singing songs and we never mess up. There's just I'm so desperate to see them fail because they're so good. And I understand that. You heard Dan Burns say it last night. He was wanting to beat Man United. Why? As a kid growing up, we were the best team. Therefore, his hatred for Man United goes above and beyond everybody else. For me, where I find it's weird with the Arsenal stuff is typically in I can't speak about the rest of the world because I've not lived there. In England, we've typically hated the best team. But in this circumstance, which is interesting, is we're hating on the team that isn't the best for the first time. And it's but I think social media, like we said earlier, plays a part. And I think it's because Spurs have always been in the mud, retrospect in one way, shape, or form in the Premier League era, not winning very many trophies. Chelsea fell off into the mud. Man United have been in the mud for a long time. Liverpool got out of it, but maybe there's a little feeling that if Arsenal win something, that they're basically in the Premier League done what our manager did when he got us out the mud. I think there's that sort of green-eyed monster for one reason or another that's perpetuated people's dislike for Arsenal. And I think social media is kind of part of it, that no matter how bad any of us were doing in the last decade, Arsenal were the whipping boys. Arsenal were the team. It didn't matter how bad United were. Yeah, but look at Arsenal. We could all do it. And Spurs even got a taste of that for a while, where you could say, well, we're in Champions League finals and we're finishing above you and the power shift. We could all laugh at Arsenal. Now, none of us really can laugh at Arsenal. And I gave the example backstage earlier, and I'll give it again. Laughing at Arsenal not winning the league when you're a Chelsea, Man United, or Spurs fan. I know anyone can give banter whenever they want. Everyone's free. But I liken it to this. If me and Giuseppe and David and Ram are all sitting there at the dance, no lady to dance with, no one to go to, we didn't arrive in the limo with anybody. Every woman we asked rejected us. And we're sitting there depressed and rejected. And then Dio turns up. And his mum dropped him off. No date. Everybody said no to him. If he walks in and we all start going, ha ha, you're ugly, no one likes you, you can't get a girl. That's not banter because we're in the same position. That's the bit I find so strange.
Deo didn't come with the boys, so therefore I have to laugh at him because you
know what? Deo has just proven, and I like Deo very much. So this is no disrespect to you, but this is why Arsenal fans are disliked when you come out with things like Tottenham have never won anything. We're one of the most successful clubs in English football. We've got 26 trophies. Yes, lately, Premier League era, we don't win anything. Maybe that's true, but football wasn't invented when you were born. It's been around a long, long time before then. And we was a very successful team, you know, and I hate that. Okay. This is the social media era. People don't know the history of other clubs, so they just come out with, but you never win anything. You've never won anything. If you go back and look at our history, we've got a fantastic history. And yeah, maybe like you could say, oh, well, you're living in the past, but you can't disrespect a club and say you've never won anything.
Kate, you heard me? No, Kate, you heard me? No, Ram, hold on. Kate, you heard me? The first thing I said before when I mentioned Tottenham, I said Tottenham is the only club I will always banter regardless. So that was banter talk. I know your history.
That's not banter.
I was talking shit about your club, and I will talk shit about Tottenham. and I will talk shit about Tottenham. They are the only club I literally, honestly, like, regardless, like, if Tottenham wins today, if they win a treble today, I will still talk shit about Tottenham. Like, if you turn into a winning club and you start winning every time you guys finished above us every season, all my Tottenham fans and friends around me, I still talk shit to them. Like, that's how bad
I'd
it
hear
is.
that.
Like, it's just
on
the
Man
thing.
City. I want to get back to Man City and what they're going to do. They did this 4-peat, David. Where do they rank in terms of English footballing greats?
They're the best. Flat out. They're the best.
Man City, the best. That's it. Done.
Yeah, exactly. There's no conversation. They've won 4 in a row and they won a treble in the middle. Yeah.
115 is our only hope.
Bro, again, they haven't, I know they have 115 charges towards them. They haven't been convicted of anything. So I'm not.
That's why I'm saying it's our only hope. It's our only hope.
Okay, fine. If they get proven guilty of doing some dodgy stuff, by all means, that wipes out, their history, right? But they haven't been convicted of anything yet. So I'm going to speak about them like they're innocent for now, and then if they get proven guilty, we can have that conversation on the day. Yeah. But for now, they're the greatest. And it
talk
makes
about
sense they're the greatest because, again, they've got the best manager, probably bar one person in the history of football, right? And then they have one of the best squads ever assembled with some of the best footballers that have ever existed on this planet anyway. So, fair play to them. They've done really well. So there's not much to say. They're just the best.
Yeah, I understand that. Is there a counter argument though here? And I'm trying for this not to sound like a Man United fan that's worried about it, which of course I am. But obviously football's changed so much. You think about the Liverpool teams in the 70s and the 80s that had very similar winning records to this, with one or no subs on their bench, with very thin squads playing the same amount of games. There was more subs available in the 90s, in the noughties, but only 3 per game, and the benches were between 3 to 5 thick. Is it unfair to sort of discount the eras and the differences in the? I mean, there were some eras where there was great teams where goalkeepers couldn't even wear gloves and the balls were about 3 times as heavy. Just as an example, is it potentially easier now with the best manager in the world and the best squad to be more dominant than maybe it was even 10, 15 years ago, with the difference, even just with being able to make 5 substitutions now in a game? Surely that helps teams now than it did 10, 15 years ago. So should those things be thrown in as an argument, or should it just be based on the achievements?
No, honestly, I don't think so, because each era had its own thing. Like, you can talk about this era having 5 subs and everything. Back in the 80s, you could pick up the ball if you passed it back to the goalkeeper. Yep. And there was a big thing when Liverpool won winning league titles, was that the only time they won a league title was when the back pass rule was a thing. And that has stood until very recently. So each era has its own thing. I know Fergie, when he was started as a Man United manager, there was a lot of stipulations where he had to have a certain amount of European players within his team. Sorry, players outside of England, let alone the UK, which was wild in itself. But each era has its own little thing, and you just got to respect what that team has done in that era. That's all I got to say, man. Even though it hurts me,
you got to take into fact the eras anyway, because could this Man City play the way they played in an era where you were allowed to be more physical than you are now? They probably wouldn't be able to play the same way. Guardiola's tactics might not have worked as much when someone can clamp you and not even get carded, and it's not even actually a foul or stuff like this. I think to say it's hard to say if it's a better accomplishment than the best team or best accomplishment ever. Of course, the 4-peat is going to be stat-wise the best, and it probably won't ever get beaten if we're being honest. But then we never know. There could be something else that happens and the team dominates forever. But I think I like to say, and I do this with players as well, I think there gets to a point where there's a bracket of just teams that are on the same, that you have to put them on the same level, because you can't compare them. You can't compare them because they played in different eras. The same way you can't compare like Messi and Pele. You can't compare them because you don't know what Pele would have done with the technology and the boots and the training and everything that Messi had. Same way you don't know what Messi would have done back then with that maybe level of football or the way it was back then. So I think that I don't think you can say these guys are better than Man United. Like I said it last season when everyone said who's done the better treble. I said I don't think you can compare them. They're both just amazing accomplishments, and they're both now legendary accomplishments. So that's how I see it.
I think that's fair. Look, it's funny how I get called crying for asking questions. It's my job to stimulate conversation and questions. Jesus Christ. I think the era thing is twofold. I think the rules help with certain things. So I think it's easier to get 95 plus points now than it was 20 years ago. If you've got deeper squads because there's more money, and more money even forget more money in general, more money comparatively. The English clubs were never the richest clubs in the 90s and before that. The Italians and the Spanish had more. We're now as rich because of the TV money, right? So I think those types of records, like points totals, are slightly easier now, potentially, because you've got bigger squads. You can use 5 subs. That makes things a lot. Concussion, injury, all these things are in sport. However, when it comes to winning the leagues and setting records, yes, those rules are now in place, but everybody that City are competing against also has those rules. When the pass back rule existed, people go, Liverpool only won the league because they could pass back to their goalkeeper, but everybody could pass back to their goalkeeper. So things were similar in that way. One of the only rules that hurt English teams more than other nations was the 3+2 rule. So when you were only allowed a certain amount of foreign players in your team, but the Irish, Northern Irish, the Welsh, and the Scottish players were suddenly considered for the first time foreign. That really hurt the English sides in Europe for a period of time, because although we are an English England as a nation, our academies and our football has always been intertwined. The Scots and the English and the Welsh have always had a mixture. They've always mixed up a little bit. So that's where I look at a rule and go, that really hurt English teams in that era. What I will say you have to look at with eras, though, is who else you are up against. So, for instance, in the 90s, Eredivisie teams were amazing. French teams were amazing. German teams, when I say amazing, you're talking about 2 or 3 teams from each nation each year were looked at as good bets to win European trophies. So Ajax, always a good bet in the 90s to win. Juve, AC Milan, always great bets. Barca, Real Madrid, always great bets. In England, 2 or 3 teams, always good bets. Marseille, good bet. Does that exist now? Are we looking at an era now where we look at multiple teams from multiple nations and even multiple teams in England that at the beginning of the season we're saying they can win the league? So I think you have to look at the overarching quality. So, for instance, when Klitschko was a heavyweight champion for the best part of a decade, no one in boxing looks at him as one of the greats in comparison to the Lewises and the Alis of this world, because the era he fought in, there were very few world-class heavyweights that he had to go up against. So the era you're in dictates how good you are. There could be someone that comes along in tennis who wins more than Djokovic over 20 years. But imagine he's the only one at that level. You're never going to put him above Djokovic, who was up against Federer, Nadal, and Andy Murray. So I think that element needs to be debated. But I think the rules and stuff, not so much. But that's just my take in terms of some will see it as me trying to defend my legends, and there is a part of that. But equally, I think it's important, and City fans won't get it today, but in 20 or 30 years' time, they're going to totally understand where I'm coming from when there's recency bias going on and people are saying X team are the best ever. They'll go, hang on a minute, there's all these differences and we had to go up against this, and so they will do it again one day themselves. So what is this? Boxing is fake money. That is the weirdest comment I've ever seen in my life. I don't even understand it. This super chat here.